Alright, I am a little bit under the weather right now, so I apologize for the quality of this, but here we go. Hello and welcome to my multimedia research breakdown where I take some time to talk about the history of black films in America. Now, let's travel back to the past and talk about the early theatric conception of black people in America. A facet that is uniquely American that I want to start with, however unpleasant, is the minstrel show. White people in the 19th century would paint their faces black and portray black people as sub 50 IQ, song and dance, comic clowns for the entertainment of any that would pay to see them on tour. This marks the beginning of the first well-organized, non-localized entertainment industry. No one at this time actually cared for black audiences, and this type of degrading theater ultimately further otherized black people by carrying harsh stereotypes. This type of performance peaked in popularity in the 19th century, but remained ingrained as a cultural phenomenon until the mid to late 20th century, with some intelligent breeds of human still continuing to do it now in the 21st century for some reason, views, I guess. No matter how controversial and racist, minstrelsy still persists, and although there are different minstrel character archetypes among the genre, the most famous is Jim Crow, created in 1830 by a white man named Thomas Rice. The era of Jim Crow fell off when Rice died, and for other reasons like abolitionism, and then came back to life when a major motion picture, The Birth of a Nation, screened inside of the White House.
In 1915, The Klansman was made into a motion picture, Birth of a Nation, as violence erupted in several cities where the film played. In Lafayette, Indiana, a white man killed a black teenager after seeing the movie. Elsewhere, gangs of whites attacked blacks on the street.
Before Woodrow Wilson's presidency, a movie screening inside of the White House had never happened before. Birth of a Nation is a silent film made in 1915 based on a book, and the movie includes blackface, with some black actors in minor roles as it was a huge production. Now, I have not seen the movie, but it's probably the most racist movie to ever have been made, so I'm never going to watch it. What I do know is that black people have long experienced problems with over-sexualization, and this movie further depicted the black man as being an animalistic creature of sexual aggression and virility, and it's not difficult to extrapolate that this resulted in more racial prejudice on a national level. To get back on subject after laying the historical framework of derision and degradation in American society with which black people have had to work with, let's introduce Norman Studios. Norman Studios does not receive credit for the first established all-black movie production company, as that credit goes to the Lincoln Motion Picture Company that was founded in 1916, but my research confirmed that most of their films are lost to time. Richard Norman of Norman Studios was a white man that made race films, who also owned and operated a production studio he purchased in 1920. It's actually located in the Arlington area, but by the introduction of this video, the 2 times a month it's been open have already passed, so I have not had an opportunity to go to the museum. In an ode to my hometown Jacksonville, I've decided to use it as an example after looking at pieces of a video series by Norman's biographer in tandem with historians, authors, and his own museum curators.
All right, Professor, here we are inside of the Cummer Museum. This ought to be as official as it gets. I just wanted to quickly go around the room and show you the exhibit.
Norman's later films featured all-black casts and painted them in positive light with good character traits, intellectual competence, and strong moral fortitude, which exemplifies a stern shift in African-American presentation comparative to everything I've talked about previously. Though bear with me, we're still a few Civil Rights Act signings away from being considered equal on a legislative basis at minimum. Now, there are many reasons for failure of the film industry in Jacksonville, which I've documented, but for the sake of time, let's just say Hollywood, California. Let's fast forward. I would be remiss not to account for animated film in a discussion about how black people lend themselves to this scene. There are countless instances of racist caricatures that increase in number the further back you go down in history. Some of the grandfathers of Western animation like Disney and Warner Brothers are guilty of racist entertainment, which highlights how pervasive this issue really was for America. 100 years' time didn't seem to satiate America's fixation with Jim Crow as an incarnation of the minstrel manifested in the 1941 Dumbo movie. The pack of crows you see are a full black choir, with the lead crow being voiced by a white man, that lead crow being Jim Crow. American media is so rife with stereotypes and casual racism that one might question why any of it even matters, or why the plight of black people in particular should even be listened to. Talking points equal parts ignorant and racist, so I probably won't even touch on them in this video. In contemporary films, though, there are a myriad of successful black producers, directors, and actors. But let's talk about one man who fits all three of those descriptions.
And you have to work on your craft, whatever it is. You gotta work on it. I tell my students in NYU Graduate Film School that there's no such thing as overnight success. It doesn't exist.
Spike Lee is a phenom in his element who has a lot of skin in the game as a producer, director, and actor. He's been making movies since the late 20th century and trailblazed an inspirational path for black filmmakers with those movies that he's made, which were often described as controversial only because it pushed the boundaries expected of him by the white American populace. The othering of women, especially black women, has been a social and media issue for a long time. Spike Lee has often had strong, enduring, and loving imagery of black women. Another reason why I've selected him to be at the forefront of what black success in the industry looks like, as opposed to some other people. Black actresses in the masses like Angela Bassett, Viola Davis, and Monique have contributed to insanely provocative movies and shows with extreme range and a meaningful plot. Some of my favorite black directors like Jordan Peele and Denzel Washington, who was arguably the greatest actor of his time, continue to deliver great movies with provocative Afro-centered plot lines as well. And so I think to tie this all together, I would have to say that American film would not be what it is today without black people. In the pursuit of civil rights, we paved the way for non-stereotypical inclusion of race globally in the film industry. Today we have spectacular performances from actors and actresses alike that shrink the divisive barrier of race and display for hundreds of millions our ability to transcend stereotypes and become the new standard for what it means to achieve greatness inside of the industry. Thank you.